Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Perpetual Chess. We have a return guest that I am really excited to catch up with. She's been making big headlines left and right lately. But first, as always, did want to thank our sponsors, Chessable.com. I wanted to give a shout out to friend of the pod, Dr. John Kabadai, has a new workbook out, The Art of Chess, a practical workbook. John's stuff is always great, so be sure to check that out. And if you sign up for Chessable Pro, you can use the link in the description. Also wanted to thank St. Louis Chess Club for helping to set this interview up. Our guest was just at St. Louis Chess Club, winning the U.S. Women's Championship. As a youth, she broke countless records. She's now a 22-year-old young woman who continues to do so. She's now the 4-time U.S. Women's Champion, including 3 times in a row. In this year's U.S. Women's Championship, after a sluggish start, she scored 6.5 out of her last 7 in the closing rounds. She was also the winner of this year's Cairns Cup after another strong finish in that tournament. And she's up to number 21 in the women's top 100 on the live ratings, also the highest rated U.S. player. So I am honored to welcome back to the program. I am Carissa Yip. Welcome, Carissa.
Thank you so much, Ben. Thank you for all the kind words and the introduction.
Well, thank you for coming on the show. I know a lot of the Patreon subs for Perpetual Chess were super excited when I announced it, and we've got to get to all of your exploits, of which there are many. But Carissa, of course, the big news of the month here as we record on October 30th was the passing of Grandmaster Daniel Naroditsky. Really sad story. The chess world has been in shock. I know you guys both went to Stanford. You're taking a gap year. Obviously, you're a bit younger than him. Had you ever met Danya?
Yeah, actually, it was very heartbreaking to hear back during COVID. He was a streamer. I had streamed like a little bit. So he gave me advice. We were friendly. We're friends. He's always very kind to me. I didn't get to talk to him too much. Maybe my one Danya story is that so we're friends, and we kind of like talk online occasionally about chess, college. He studied history. I was super into history at the time. We talked a little bit of history too, that sort of thing. And then it was like the 2020 U.S. Championship, which was online, and then it was so it was like the usual round robin format, except it was rapid, so we'd play like 3 games a day. And going into the last day, I was like half a point behind Irina, who's leading the tournament, and I was playing, I think, on Zatonskih-Yip with the black pieces, and I'd been like texting Danya a little bit, and he was like, "Oh, like I'd be so happy to help you prep if you want," and I was like, "Oh, that'd be great." And so I think my round was like the next morning. He sent me like some stuff at 6 a.m. because first of all, he had been up late until like 3 or something streaming. He just loved it so much. And then he was like, so sorry this is so late. But I was just like, wow, like, if I was up until 3 streaming, I would just be like, no way, I'm looking at more chess now. But yeah, he just loved chess so much, and he was the kind of guy who would like keep his word on stuff like this. And yeah, actually I won that game against I think I finished second in that championship anyway. But yeah, and he never wanted like any acknowledgement or anything either. He just did it out of love of the game. So yeah, like I said, he was always very kind to me, wonderful person, and it was so terrible to hear about everything. Just like last week, feels like.
Yeah, very typical Danya story. And it's so sad when you hear all these glowing stories about him. Did you end up using the lines that he sent?
Yeah, I did. Actually, he had like, he had great prep. So I was like, I should actually, I should hire this guy. Yeah, no. I did use the line. It was great. He like, he found like this rare novelty. He's like, no, just played this, blah blah. It was very good stuff. I still like have it in my back pocket just in case.
Nice. You still have the file?
Yeah, of course.
Excellent. Yeah, and obviously Ali Reza Firouzja had the same thought of you about the quality of his prep and opening knowledge, since it came to light that he went to the FIDE Grand Swiss with him in what turned out to be some of his last days. It's so sad to think about. But there's unfortunately, obviously, there's a lot of hand wringing about Vladimir Kramnik and the whole thing. I mean, there's just nothing that can change. We can try to make things better going forward, but we'll never get Danya back. So that's a big loss. But um, but there's only so much that we can say about that, unfortunately. So let's focus on the positive of your incredible performance. So, second straight sluggish start, Carissa. I know you were sick at the Cairns Cup, but what happened? What do you think? Did something change this time, or is that just kind of the way the ball rolled?
Probably I was just a bit too in my head. Sometimes this happens at the start of events when there's kind of a bit of pressure. Um, so yeah. At Cairns I was sick, but obviously I also kind of wanted to prove myself, and I think that played a factor in my slow start. And then here, of course, there was I was feeling pressure after last year's great run, and I think also it was it was a little hard mentally because I felt like, I'm like 5 times the player than I was last year, but how are my results so bad? You know what I mean? I think sometimes there's this period where you kind of gain more chess knowledge, but it takes time to like properly integrate with your chess. And I think that was sort of a part of it for me. And at some point I was like, I have to get out of my own head. And after the first rest day, that was really good because I was I kind of got a chance to reset, and then I started scoring for real.
Right. Yeah, then things really turned around. And so you're taking a gap year from Stanford. Do you have 1 year left?
Yes, I have just a little bit over a year. We're on like a quarter system. So I started in the spring quarter of my junior year. So I'll have 4 quarters left.
Okay, so you've been off basically since the summer?
Yeah, pretty much. I've been off since April last year.
Okay, and from a day-to-day perspective, what does that feel like? Like, how much chess are you doing? Are you enjoying that process?
Yeah, I think first of all, it's very good for me, not even in the sense of time, but just like mental energy and space that chess can occupy in my mind. Because usually when I'm at school, there's so many different responsibilities and things that I have to be kind of concerned with or thinking about. So that kind of saps like some of my intellectual energy, right? Day to day these days, I mean, all I'm doing is pretty much chess. So let me think. Yeah, my routine kind of varies a little bit because I play and go to train so often that when I'm not doing that, I'm usually trying to rest and recover a bit. So for the last few days, I've mostly been chilling. But I think on like an average, like me working by myself day, I'll probably try to work for somewhere between like 4 to 6 hours. I don't really like burning myself out too much when I go to work with other people. We could do like 8 to 10 hours. So it really just varies.
And what does the work look like? Is it cramming opening lines? I know you mentioned openings as a relative weakness in our prior conversation in 2022. Is it just cramming opening lines? Are you doing calculation work and exercises as well?
Yeah, honestly, a bit of everything. I think probably mostly openings these days. It's a big thing, kind of now more than ever, I think. Also, I like to spend some portion of my time doing calculation work, puzzle studies, just to keep sharp. I think those are kind of the main constants, along with trying to play a good amount of training games, just with friends and stuff, again, to stay sharp. And then, my other work is kind of varies. Sometimes I'll be analyzing games for my tournaments. Sometimes I'll be um, just trying to, yeah, study up on certain things, end games, that sort of stuff.
So it sounds like you're not someone who feels like you need to have like a rigid schedule and curriculum laid out.
Generally, I like to have like a good routine. I think there are parts of it that are kind of rigid. There are like some things I try not to skip every day. But then for the rest of it, it's more free flowing.
So what do you try not to skip?
Oh, I mean, like the calculation work, I try to do like maybe at least an hour of that every day. I try to play like some number of training games in a week, especially if a tournament is coming up. And openings are openings are a little tricky to work on, I have to say, because it's kind of easy to get burnout if you're only working on openings. So sometimes I'll have like these periods where I'm just like totally locked in, finding new ideas, studying lines, that sort of thing. And then some periods where I'm just trying not to look at openings at all.
And for the exercises, Carissa, do you have like what's the source material?
Oh, I mean, it'll just be like books, friends, coaches, that sort of thing. So no really like set course material, but
A- Any recent standout like books or
let me
courses that
think. Recently I've been doing like some killer chess training sheets. So those have been quite
yeah,
good. Yeah,
shout out to Jakob and his team there. Yeah, they're
exactly.
amazing.
Yes.
Yeah. So, and opening wise, so I noticed you played mostly E4 in the U.S. Women's Championship, but for example, like when you faced the French, you did manage to play like an advanced and a winner separately. You're not like you're varying your openings within the E4 umbrella, and maybe you will branch out beyond that, get back to other lines as well. Do you have like a philosophy in terms of, especially I'm curious, a closed tournament like that where prep is intensive? Do you have like an overarching philosophy for the value of surprises?
Absolutely. I think it's always great to surprise your opponent early on. I mean, some also depends on the opponent because some people can, some people handle surprises poorly and some manage all right. But I think generally I try to surprise in the opening. And yeah, I mean, it's kind of like, I mean, the reason for the surprises is like, this is what my coach Awonder likes to tell me. So it's like,
Ah, okay.
yeah. So best case
I mean, I knew you
scenario.
guys were friends. I didn't know if he was actually coaching you. That's cool. That's great.
Yes. Yeah. No, he is. We've been maybe I can get into that later. We've been working together since like um August 2024. So it's been a while. But anyway, yeah, he has this thing where he's like, worst case scenario. Well, sorry, best case scenario, it's the engine versus your opponent, and worst case scenario, it's you versus your opponent. Um, so I thought about it, and I'm like, yeah, I remember he told me this like last August. Um, because he was trying to get me on his thing of surprising early and often.
Right.
I thought about it and I was like, actually, he's right because engine versus opponent, engine should be winning. Me against my opponent, like probably most of the time I should be good too. So it's kind of a boost of confidence. Um, I think, yeah, for close tournaments, I actually don't really try to prepare opponent by opponent before the event because, there's colors, that sort of thing. But generally, I try to do like a good amount of work, so I'll kind of ramp up the work that I'm doing as the tournament approaches. And I'll just try to have like a good number of new ideas, new openings. So, like you mentioned, the French, I had like this advanced, I had this winter work. I didn't really expect, let's say, beforehand that I'd play Rose with White and that she'd play French, but I knew, there are two well known French players in the field, Tatev, Anna. Um, Sometimes I've noticed that when people play me and they play a variety of different openings, sometimes they'll go for the French. So it seems like they think that's a weakness of mine. So it'd be good to have like multiple weapons against that. And then so it's like when my game against Rose comes along, she plays a lot of different lines, but she played the French like in a game prior, I think, during the same event. And, I prep for every line, but it's kind of helpful because I don't have to really do extra work there, right? I just kind of get to check my files. So at US Women's, I think probably I was doing like half an hour of prep every day. Not that much.
And then with the black pieces, you played like the English rat defense, which I had to double check the name. I wasn't even sure what it was. And then you played like the modern. So those are rather offbeat lines. Is it intimidating to learn and play lines like that?
I'm a big modern fan from my younger days.
Well, yeah,
So
hoping for the King's Indian transposition, right?
exactly, King's Indian, that sort of thing. Yeah, I mean, I play a variety of things against E4. So I have some Sicilians. I have the modern, but let me think. When did I play them on? Okay, so I played against Megan. So I guess here's some insight into how I pick my openings. So Megan is like obviously very young, super talented, but just doesn't have that much experience, right? So I figure she'll know her stuff in kind of the main big lines, but kind of uh offbeat lines people actually don't really tend to study that much, and the modern can be kind of a confusing opening to face. I also have like a lot of experience in it, so I thought it would be a good choice for a player like her, and it kind of turned out to be true.
That would be Megan Paragua.
All right.
And so, Carissa, with all these openings, do you consider it a strength of yours to memorize lines?
I actually think openings are not so much about memorization as they are about understanding, which I know is kind of a cliche, but it's kind of cliche for a reason, right? It's quite true.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, if you only memorize lines and you don't really understand what's going on, sometimes, your opponent surprises early, you're not really sure what the right response is. Um, it's kind of an easy way to catch someone, I think. Um, yeah, I mean, also, if you think, how to phrase this, if you're, yeah, if you just don't understand your lines so well, then it kind of also becomes tricky after the line ends, right? Like let's say you get through all of your prep and then your file ends, right? And then you're kind of on your own. And you're like, well, what's my game plan now, And if there's like a slight deviation in the position, you don't know, like, oh, was this deviation like really critical? Do I embark upon another plan? Is there a way to like punish my opponent for this, that sort of thing? Versus like, oh, this is like doesn't actually fundamentally change the nature of the position, and so I should kind of continue with whatever I was trying to do in the first place. That sort of thing. I kind of think this is true when you're trying to find surprises or, novelties. In general, also, some openings require more memorization and others require more understanding, that sort of thing. Like, I think, for example, I mean, Sicilian obviously requires a ton of memorization. Also, understanding helps, of course, but sometimes there are just lines where, kind of have to play only moves and otherwise you're kind of screwed. I think there are lines that are like a lot more positionally based, let's say like within 1d4, right? A lot of that's kind of understanding. And I think also probably same goes for like the Italian. I will say I don't actually know the Italian so well on like a high level, but I kind of get the sense that it's more of a intuitive thing, you
Yeah.
know?
And so, if you are learning an opening from scratch, what's your approach? Do you look at games? Do you look at the main lines? Are you generally working with a coach like Awonder so that they can give an overview? Like, if you're learning from something, obviously nothing's from scratch at your level, but say you're relatively unfamiliar, how would you approach it?
I think, yeah, so if I'm starting completely from scratch, I always kind of want a person to give me a good overview. But, like you're saying, I'm playing a lot within E4. So, for example, if I'm trying to learn advanced or winnerware in the French, these structures are kind of already quite familiar to me. So that part helps. I think also, yeah, so looking at games is important because you get a sense of the plan, and also maybe what I do most is I kind of like to turn on the engine and I poke around, right? You just, I mean, you always kind of want to know the top engine line, of course, but at my level, like people aren't usually playing the top engine line when they're surprised. So I like to look at the position, think about how I would react naturally, and then figure out, what's the refutation of sorts. But I think, yeah, if you really want to understand a position, you kind of just sit down and poke around with the engine for a while, whether it's like an opening position, middle game position, just anything like that. Just try the moves that come to your head, figure out why they work, why they don't work. It'll give you more clarity. And I think also, yeah, with the openings thing, I like working with people on openings. So, for example, like I'll be working with my friends, they'll have some idea and they'll be like, oh, like, Krista, come play this position against me. Let's see how you react, that sort of thing.
And so you've been mentioning training games a fair amount. What time control do you generally play?
Typically, I play rapid, so 15 plus 10 is a classic. Cause I do like some 25 plus 5, but that's actually a little bit too long for me. And then, yeah, sometimes I could just do like 3 plus 5 or something, which is kind of a weird time control. But I'm really bad at like online blitz because, well, usually I use my touchpad, which is kind of slow. Um, Reason for this is because somehow I'm, like, terrible with a mouse. I've been terrible with a mouse since, like, maybe I played my first SCC in, like, 2020. Yeah, I remember at some point Danya was like, "I will send you a mouse myself."
I was gonna say you just won $45,000, Carissa. You should be able
Yeah.
to get a mouse.
He was like, "Please, you have to get a mouse, like, I'll just send it to you." I was like, "Oh, okay, like, it's fine, I'll just buy my own." But it's just
Right.
I don't know, it's so slippery and wires get in the way. I just don't really like using the mouse. Um, I don't have good mouse skills. I actually also, yeah, I have very little interest in also training my mouse skills. So that's another part of it. Um, so even with increment, I tend to flag. But anyway, yeah, if I'm playing faster time control like training games, and I'll do like some ridiculous increment, like 3+5, 3+10, that sort of thing.
And do you feel it's important? And do you have to channel serious focus when you're playing these training games, or is it more kind of like a laboratory?
No, I mean, it's always serious for sure, but I kind of want to use it as a opportunity to try out, certain ideas, certain openings, that kind of thing. But I won't like prep very deeply for my opponent or anything like that, check their openings or whatever. It's just like, sometimes I'll play as people and then maybe I'll have like an opening request. Maybe they'll have an opening request for me to try so they could, test out some new line or if I want to. And then sometimes we're just like, oh, like just honestly just play whatever. Yeah.
Okay. Well, returning to more big picture, Carissa, we had a question from longtime friend and supporter of the pod, who I believe you know as well, Chris Wainscott. Chris says, let's cut to the chase, Carissa. Would you prefer to have a career as a chess professional or to enter the corporate world first?
Oh, Chris coming from my throat with this one.
Yeah,
um,
on the spot.
yeah. Well, I think my answer is pretty clear right now, right? Chess professional. I think when I was younger, it was less obvious to me. I knew for sure that I wanted to get a, solid education. So I went to a pretty good high school, which I'm very appreciative of. And I knew I also wanted to go to college. So I ended up going to Stanford. But I think at some point it became clear that there was actually nothing I would prefer as a career as than chess. And so I was like, well, we'll see if I can make it in chess. We'll give it a shot. Um, hopefully it goes well. If it goes poorly, then I guess maybe I'll have no choice but corporate. But yeah, I think.
Well,
Oh,
sorry, go
sorry.
ahead.
Oh no, yeah. I think American corporate is also kind of like a unique branch of awfulness, at least in my eyes.
Yeah, you're not going to get a disagreement with me, although there's certainly some benefits, more security and health insurance and stuff
Health
like that.
insurance.
Yeah, but there'll be a lot of chess fans excited to hear you say that, and I feel like it shows some urgency that you took this gap year. You only have 1 year left. You could have just gone, finished, and then did it, but you didn't want to wait.
Yeah, I mean, kind of as a friend told me if I'm gonna do chess, it's better to do it sooner than later. Um, the other thing was I'm kind of on a bit, or when I decided to take this gap year, I've been on like a bit of a hot streak. So I just won the gold at Olympiad, and then also this like 8 out of 8 run at U.S. Champs. Um, so I was feeling kind of especially, not say motivated, but I guess I had a lot of faith in myself to do well, and I figured, it's going so well, I should just stop everything and try to continue it.
Yeah, that makes sense. And speaking of the 8 out of 8 run, I was wondering, I really enjoyed the story you told in the February Chess Life magazine about a Wonder and Grandmaster Sam Shankland's bet. Could you
Yes.
indulge our listeners with that story?
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, so it was like after the fourth round, I won a crazy, crazy game against Irina. It should have been a draw, but I kind of tricked her. I don't know if you remember this game, some night before stuff, and then confused her. So anyway, so we're at the bar. Actually, I wonder had lost to Ray that day, so he was a little bit in the trenches. He's like, Carissa, let's hit the bar. I was like, sure. He's like, let's get Sam too. And I was like, sure. I think Sam was also maybe a little bit in the trenches for some reason. So at the bar, and then we're like like some baseball game up. We're like talking about baseball, talking briefly about like college. For some reason, we're talking about stocks because the boys love stocks. I don't care about them at all. Wonder it's just downing all these beers. And then he's like, and he's like, Sam, Carissa's gonna get the Fisher Prize. What do you think? And Sam's like, no, absolutely not. And he's like, definitely not. It's just, he's very vehement on this. I was like, oh, I'm a little offended, honestly. He's like, no, it's just like, probabilities. He takes out his calculators. Like, let's say you have like some percentage to win. You have to win all your games, blah, blah. Okay, so he's like calculating numbers. Numbers are very poor, of course, for me in terms of getting a Fisher Prize. And I Wonder's probably a little too drunk. So he's like, no, she'll definitely make it. So they have like this stupid bet made on whether or not I'll make the Fisher Prize. And so it's like every day I walk in the tournament hall, I'm like looking at Sam just to threaten him a little bit. Yeah, and then I lost my 9th game, but it's like right before the 9th round, and I think we were like chatting. Everyone had heard about this bet between Awonder and Shankland at this point. And then Wesley's always trying to get in on the action. Of course, Wesley's like, let me get in on this bet. So then I think Awonder was like, all right, I'll make a bet with you. $100 Carissa doesn't make the Fisher Prize. So it's basically just a bet between Wesley and
And it's
Sam
just
at this point.
so just to clarify a couple things for listeners, the Fisher Prize is the special prize that the Sinkfelds have endowed, where if you go 11-0, you get, I think it's $64,000. And the terms of the bet, it wasn't clear to me. Is it even money? Is it like Sam risks 100 and Awonder risks 100?
Yeah,
Because
it's
as you said, the
even money.
probability mathematics. Okay.
Even money. I was like, these are not good odds. I was trying to stop him from making the bet. I was like, pushing the beer away. I was like, no need to make the bet. He's like, no, I'm going to make the bet. But okay,
And
it's
you
just
came close.
for kicks, I guess. Yes. Yeah.
You came close, but no luck. I mean, a lot of luck. You won the tournament convincingly, but no luck in the actual winning of the bet. And no bets this year in this year's U.S. Championship?
I mean, maybe if I'd had a better start.
Right.
But, I was like, this is too much pressure. Immediately let me lose my first game. So just Fisher Prize completely off the table.
Right. Do you feel like, so it's not like, I mean, after 4 rounds, I think you were 2-2, right?
After 4 rounds, I was 1.5 out of 4.
Oh, okay. So did you feel like you were still in it?
Actually, I think at some point I was like really in the trenches. I was like, I'm just going to try like not lose rating at this tournament. So I wasn't thinking so much about whether or not I was in it, but I knew for sure I wasn't out of it, It's just that like, I didn't want to think too much about it because the tournament was still early at that point. And yeah, I guess that was kind of maybe me at my low during the event, but like I said, rest day was good. I kind of got to reset a little, and obviously once I got my first win, my confidence just went way up, and I was like, I'm definitely still in it.
Yeah, for sure. And we had another question on a related note from a Patreon supporter of Perpetual Chess. Thank you to Dan Ruperel for helping to support the pod. And he was wondering, he said, congrats on your Cairns Cup win, in addition to the U.S. Championship, of course. And he wanted to make sure you recovered from whatever it was that made you sick, and also just general advice, as we've been talking about, for when someone is in the trenches, as you call it, is feeling like they can't get out of a funk chess-wise.
Yeah, I mean, actually, I've absolutely been feeling this way recently as well. I think it's something I'm still trying to figure out. So I think I kind of, after Cairns, I actually had a series of kind of like okay events. So I had World Cup, which was, I think I got like +10 rating, but I obviously, I got it knocked out very disappointingly so by Shali, and they're just like, I think I was like winning almost every single tiebreak game, but then I just couldn't convert for some reason. I was up like 3 pawns in the first one, and then we drew, and then I was up like a piece in the second one, and then we drew again, and then it was a little downhill from there. So I was very unhappy about that. Afterwards, I went and played this open in France, Dole Open, which was a very fun event, but it also, I think I ended up losing some rating there. I lost to like a couple 2200s. So again, very disappointing stuff. Yeah, I think it was the
Go ahead,
Grand
sorry.
Swiss. No, you're good. It was held in like Uzbekistan in September. Yeah, that one it was my first Grand Swiss, and I really, really wanted to do well, but I had such a disappointing performance. I think it wasn't so bad as all things go. I think I lost like 6 points or something, but it was just kind of like mid event after mid event, and kind of felt like I was losing my touch, and then especially followed that up with like the first third of U.S. Women's, and I was just like, what's happening? Like I feel like, I was crashing out to wonder about this. I don't know what's going on. Like, why am I playing so badly? Why are my results so bad? Blah blah. I think okay. Well, first of all, I'm feeling a lot better after after this win, this championship win. So no longer so much in the trenches. I think generally you kind of just have to have faith, and it just I think it happens to everyone. Like Awonder had this big breakthrough at Grand Swiss, rating jumped up to like 2710.
Yeah, that was
Which is like an
awesome.
all time high for him. But I think actually in the last like year or so, he had been like trying so hard to cross 2700. If you play so many tournaments, and then he'd be so frustrated because like he'll come so close, like 2698, 99 or something, and then he'll like draw some 2500 and ring goes back down. So he was also, I think it was also tricky for him because his rating was like just floating around, between like 2690, 2699, and he's going around playing all of these events trying to cross 2700. Um, it just wasn't happening, right? And I think, yeah, it can get hard emotionally, but it's not like he ever really stopped playing or working. And then at Grand Swiss, he had like a fantastic event there. And bam, 2710. And I think kind of for me too, it's kind of a difficult thing to try to accept that like progress is never linear, you know?
Yeah.
Um, because sometimes you could be just feeling so good after like a hot streak of events, and then all of a sudden it just goes back down. And you're like, what's happening? I think that's maybe one of the hardest parts of being a chess professional. Not so much actually like the actual chess, like studying or working or playing itself so much, but kind of being able to regulate your emotions well
Yeah.
in a healthy way. I think there's some people who could just have such a bad tournament, and like actually, I don't want to look at chess for like several months. You know,
Right.
that sort of. Um, and obviously, I think yeah, people kind of have to do what they have to do to get their mind straight. But competitive chess is just so I don't know. There's something so emotional and intense about it. Um, I feel like even when I wasn't a professional player, I play casually for fun. But I lose a bad game, and then I'm just so I feel like awful, uh, just like completely horrible. And I think it's kind of worse for pros because yeah, there's just so much more on the line, right? Mm,
Yeah.
Sorry, I guess I never answered the question of how to get through the slump. I think maybe like in a tournament itself, you still have like games to keep playing, right? So kind of just try to get um out of a bad mood, do something different. During tournaments, I kind of like to have a routine, but if my chess is going poorly, then I like to switch up the routine a lot. Yeah, I was like super. Yeah, I had this game against Jennifer, I think. And I was so unhappy with that game. It was such a horrible game I played. And I think also I was like really unhappy because Alice had extended her lead by a full point after I made that draw. Like I didn't even lose, but I was just yeah, I was not happy. And then I think what I did was there's like this bookstore over close to the chess club. So I just walked to the bookstore and I sat there for like a couple hours just reading, and that was very helpful. Just takes my mind off things. I think my advice is just do something that you like really enjoy, that kind of takes you out of your head in that sense. So like I can read a great book and I'll be like, wow, actually the world is so beautiful and so much bigger than like this one chess game um that I just like completely messed up. So that helps. And then kind of yeah, in a big picture sense, I think yeah, there could definitely be a series of terrible tournaments. You could be in a slump for so long, months, years. Years is yeah, years is tough, but yeah, honestly, years like I was kind of like the same rating for 5 years or something ridiculous like that. Um, but yeah, I think you could kind of just keep going at it and kind of trust in yourself. Maybe at some point also, like if I think sometimes you can like really feel if what you're doing is working, if it's good for your chess or not. Like I said, there takes some time between there's some time between like how long it takes for your results to catch up with like what you've been learning when it comes to like integrating chess knowledge into your actual gameplay. But I think you can kind of feel it that if your chess is improving and it just is like a matter of time before it catches up over the board, versus if kind of what you're doing is just not the right thing for you. Like I think you should never kind of be afraid to try to switch it up after a bit.
A lot of good advice there. Number one, just want to point out it's funny because you've won 4 U.S. championships, 3 in a row, and to hear it phrased as this massive struggle, it really underscores how difficult chess is. No, because I get what you're saying about like your rating hadn't gone up that much until recently, and it really just shows the degree of the ups and downs. That if a player who has accomplished as much as you have feels them, obviously we're all going to feel them, whether we're professionals or more commonly amateurs like me. And then I wanted to read you a quote. Well, actually, before I read you this quote, what do you remember what book you were reading at the bookstore?
At the bookstore? Yeah, it was Small Things Like These by Claire Keegan, I think.
Okay.
Yes.
Recommend or
Oh, absolutely. It was like a short story. I think I finished in probably under an hour, but it's
oh, so
very
fiction.
good.
Wow, you really
Yeah,
got
fiction.
yourself lost. That's cool.
Yeah,
Yeah.
highly recommend. It's very good. It's yeah, like I said, kind of a short story, but I like those.
Okay. And then here are the wise words. A quote, I have learned, however, that you really can lose yourself in all the way things could have gone differently. Regrets are a funny thing because in the end, in this situation you have, thinking about all the what ifs is a natural and human instinct, but it rarely goes anywhere truly productive.
Oh my
Do you
God,
know who
Ben.
wrote that?
You started it, and I was like, oh no.
No, it's a really touching and true insight. It's from Carissa's Chess Life article in February 2025.
Oh my God.
So I mean, I really did. I thought the whole article was well written, and that part really resonated in particular. So I'm curious if you
Thank
enjoy
you.
writing and if it's something you see yourself doing more of.
Absolutely. Actually, thank you for this question. I would say writing is actually probably biggest passion, maybe more so than chess. I actually don't really like personal pieces so much. I guess I don't like writing about myself. And I also find it very difficult to write about chess. But I think I like writing, sort of like more commentary-ish pieces, more like my thoughts on the world as opposed to like my thoughts on me myself. But yeah, I'm a huge writer. I actually I keep like a newsletter that I send out to like 40 of my closest friends.
Oh,
So
that's
it'll kind
cool.
of just be like, be very general, like what I've been up to recently, world events that I want to comment on, maybe like some sort of ideas that I've been messing around in my head. And it's really great because, I think it's a good way to keep in contact with old friends that, maybe I don't talk so frequently to, but they'll respond and be like, actually, like, I really like this idea. I want to talk about it more. And then we discuss it. And yeah.
Do you have any thoughts of like writing in that way more publicly, like a blog or something like that, Substack, etc.?
Yeah, like a Substack. Actually, actually a bunch of my friends are like, you should start a Substack, but I think I tend to be, I wouldn't say I'm like the most private person, but I think probably I'm still at the age where I'm trying to figure myself out a little bit, so a lot of what I write is quite personal. I probably wouldn't want to make it so public until, yeah, I guess I'm more sure of the person that I am.
Yeah, that
More
makes
or less.
sense. I mean,
Yeah.
it's so like when I was your age, everything you did didn't go on your permanent record. You could like make some mistake, and it's not going to necessarily be like captured in a video on the internet for everyone to see for the rest of their lives, or like if you misspeak or something, it's not necessarily going
Yeah.
to be
Not
reverberate the
even that
same
though.
way.
I think just like growing up can be such a messy process. I guess I'm 22, but I still feel like I'm kind of in that process, and it's not something that I guess I want to be broadcasted to the world, and I would guess most people also feel that way.
Yeah, that makes sense. Well, you've been so busy lately. One tournament I didn't talk about on this podcast, and we haven't talked about, is you played in this USA versus India match, this sort of unique esports format with Levy and Sagar Shah, along with
Yeah.
Fabiano and Hikaru. What was that experience like?
Yeah, honestly, is so fun. I think I met everyone on the team before except Levy. Of course, I think I knew Tani. I knew Fabi from St. Louis, Hikaru as well. But Levy, I think we only. I'm actually not sure if we had ever met in real life. But yeah, I think the team was great. We had a lot of fun. It was like I think first of all, it was like a very cool concept, just kind of in terms of how chess can be a spectator sport. There were like over 1,000 people in the stadium watching us play, and honestly, the energy was so electric. I guess remember our first match was like Fabi and Arjun, and just the crowd was going crazy. Like we were going crazy. We were like up on stage, right behind, like at a desk behind these computers. The Indian team was on the other side of stage, and then in the middle they were playing, right. But I remember like the lights went off, crowd was like losing their minds, and then the US team, we were just all looking at each other. We were like, whoa, this is actually insane. Like this is insanely hype. Yeah, it's just I think it was so cool to get to talk to the Indian players a little bit as well, and they were very kind and nice. Like them a lot too. Um,
Yeah, Gukesh got a fan pick, right?
yes, like he did. So did Arjun actually. Haven't posted that one yet, but maybe at some point.
Yeah.
But I think it was great just to get to talk to them a little bit, and then of course the American team was so much fun. What do you think? Yeah, funny story. So I remembered like Awonder had been like, have you prepped for Divya yet? The match was on Saturday. This was like Wednesday before, and I was like, no. And he's like, have you looked at her games? And I was like, oh no. And then he was like, what? Like, he's really getting on me about it as a coach. I was like, okay, fine. Sorry. I actually got like a little bit sick that week. So then I didn't get a chance to look at anything until like maybe I had to fly out to Dallas on like Thursday, and then Friday there's like media day and stuff. But I was trying to do a little bit of prep then and before the match as well. So, everyone was arriving, and then we were like just chatting. I was like, oh, I'm just talking to the American team. I'm like, have you guys like done any prep? And they're like, no, definitely not. And they're like, maybe I'll just play something random. I'll play like B3 or something for the Catalan. And I was like, wait, no one's done any prep? Like, why is Wonder on me about this? And we were like actually at lunch, and then Fabi was like, should I play like one C3 or should I play one knight C3? Um, and then we flipped a coin on it. I think he ended up playing C3, which I would say is a
Okay.
better move than knight C3. Yeah, and then, actually, I still wanted to prep, so I remember it was like an hour before the match, and then we were just all in our team room. And then I was like, guys, like, what should I play against E5, French, Caracan, Sicilian, blah, blah. And so, like, Fabi, Hikaru, Levitani, they're just giving me all of these ideas. They're like, you could try this, it wouldn't be bad. It's a good idea in rapid, that sort of thing, etc. And then we got one of the ideas over the board. So it was good.
Nice. And so do you like the sort of esports presentation? I mean, it sounds like it was fun to be a participant, if nothing else.
Oh, absolutely, it was fun to be a participant. I guess this is my first time with esports type stuff. I think it was definitely very good energy. Um, so I like that a lot. Um, I'll say I'm a bit of a chess purist, so my favorite time control is classical, but kind of in
But
terms
once in a
of
while, it's good.
yeah, once in a while it's a lot of fun. Well, not even once in a while. I'd be happy to do it pretty often. Honestly, it's just I wouldn't want it to dominate or replace classical.
And there was this utterly ridiculous controversy about Hikaru throwing a piece into the crowd. It seemed a bit premeditated. Did they ask you to throw a piece into the crowd, Carissa?
Yeah, actually, I should. Yeah, I never got a chance to elaborate on this, so thanks for asking. Yeah, so actually, they had gone like they only had 2 sets. So these are like the brand new DGT sets. DGT could only send over 2 of them. So actually, they're like, oh, if you win, you should do something celebratory. Like, I think what I did was like I picked up my opponent's king and I like just held it in the air. So yeah, so the organizers had asked us to do something like that. But yeah, we only had 2 sets, so they're like 2 sets. So actually, the first 3 matches can't like destroy anything on the set. But the
Right.
last 2 games, Levy and Hikaru, right? They're like, yeah, like you could smash the king, you could like throw it into the, you could just like break it. And they're like, do something big. So I was not asked to like break the king or anything. I was asked to do something with it. And then, I think Hikaru was like, yeah, we had been like, we were talking about it beforehand, like everyone was there, Hikaru before was like, yeah, like, he's like, I'm not gonna break the king or anything, but maybe I'll like toss it into the crowd. Which is what happened. And I think, yeah, when it happened, the energy in the stadium was great, like everyone went crazy over it. And then I guess it blew up online and generated kind of a massive controversy. I mean, for the most part, I think people understand that it wasn't really a big deal, but there are a lot of very hardcore Gukesh
Yeah.
defenders. But I think it was good. I mean, kind of like generates a little bit of attention for the event, right? And, I talked to Picard about it afterwards, and he really didn't care that much.
Literally.
Yeah, I guess maybe he's kind of used to people hating on him or something on Twitter, so it's no biggie. But yeah, I mean, I think any reasonable person kind of, and then everyone came out with like their own thing afterwards. So I think any reasonable person could tell it was like not like an asshole type move, but just for the crowd.
Yeah, I mean, you're trying to put on a show. I understand, and the people who are upset about it, like you don't have to watch. I didn't watch. I'm old and washed and used to classical chess.
Mhm.
So I only caught up afterwards. But no one's forcing you. So,
Yeah, yeah.
um, well, Carissa, we have a couple more listener questions before we let you get out of here. Really appreciate your taking the time. This has been amazing.
No,
The
absolutely.
next one is from Igor Feinstein. So thanks for helping to support the pod, Igor. He writes, Judit Polgar's peak rating was over 2,700, and she was a top 10 player in the world. Now, there are many more women in chess, but no one else has yet attained her level. Do you have a take on what could be construed as a gender gap for why no one has matched Judith's dominance just yet?
Hmm. Yeah, this is a really good question. First of all, I think the issue of women in chess is not so much of a, let's say, biological thing or whatever, as so much a sociological phenomenon. Just in terms of pure numbers, it kind of makes sense. Um, I think also in terms of why, like, let's say women are not really crossing 2,600 barrier or making it into the 2,700 club. I think now that I'm doing chess professionally, I kind of get a better understanding of this than when people would ask me this question before when balancing school and stuff. But just becoming like really good just takes so much out of you. I mean, there are like certain prodigies who can make it so young, right? But I mean, everyone has like varying levels of talent and like some point that they hit when they have to start like seriously working quite a bit to improve. And especially as you get higher rated, like kind of the amount of effort that you have to put in to become better and see that reflected in your rating is like exponentially more than when you're like low rated, right? I'd say maybe around like 2,200 plus. It can get like very, very tricky. Um, so I think to make it to 2,600, not only requires like a kind of ridiculous amount of talent, but kind of ridiculous capacity to be able to put so much of yourself into one thing. And I think also that's why it's easier for kids than it is for adult improvers. Like I said, I was never homeschooled, but I have like friends who were and who are, and it's so much easier when all you're doing really is chess. And as an adult, it's like you can try to do that. I mean, that's kind of what I'm trying now, right? I more or less have not so many responsibilities, and all I'm doing is trying to focus on chess. But just, I think when you're older, you just have so many more distractions. I mean, so many different interests in the world that you want to explore, so many things to think about, kind of how to explain it. But especially, I think these days, there's so many tugs that you can feel on yourself, like various systems. Sorry, I'm getting a little too abstract, maybe, but just you're a part of so many different things, and sometimes you can be tugged in a lot of different directions, right? So I think it's a big thing. Sorry, I got a little distracted. What was the original question?
Yeah, no, I think you answered it well. And I've noticed in my time, men tend towards an obsessive nature more often. So I don't know if you agree with that, but that's not like a biological predisposition towards chess talent, but there might be some predisposition towards, as you say, sort of spending the marginal hour, when you're already devoting so much to such a hard game with so many setbacks, that maybe there's something there, but I don't, I don't really know. And I don't think, I mean, I think
Yes.
sooner or later there'll be another.
Yeah. I mean, I think for sure there'll be another Judit. But yeah, I mean, sorry, just drawing on my experience of like, let's say myself, and then also young female talents in the U.S. Like, for example, Amy Wang, Jennifer Yu, Emily Nguyen. These are kind of like people I grew up with generationally, and it's just, I mean, we all went to college, we went to high school, we did different things in high school besides chess. Um, I think just it was like a big thing of none of us were ever so willing to give ourselves so completely to chess, right? And obviously there are varying levels of that. You could like spend all of your time on chess. You could have like no other hobbies, but just I think like mentally, emotionally, intellectually, like there's a thing where you could really just live and breathe the game. You think about absolutely nothing else. You do absolutely nothing else. Like, I don't know, like you're not reading, like you're barely consuming any other sort of intellectual content. You're barely engaging in other sorts of like emotional affairs, that sort of thing. Like literally all it is just training and playing chess. And I think that that's a state that can be done more easily as a kid. It kind of has downsides too, right? Because as a kid, it's hard to know your own limits and when you experience burnout and that sort of thing. But I think like the people who can manage that well, like go on to do, I mean, I don't know, they grow on to be like these 2,700 players, right? Um, but I think, uh, yeah, it's something that I think comes more easily to men than women. That's sort of very obsessive quality to want to devote yourself fully to literally just one thing and nothing else, you know?
Yeah. Well said. And often the obsessive qualities can have drawbacks as well. So yeah,
For
well
sure, yeah.
said.
You just
And we
look at
had
fishing. Hmm.
yeah, exactly. And related listener question. This one is from Lindsay E. Lindsay asks and says, "It's no secret that chess is still absurdly male dominated, and myths persist that are often perpetuated by people who should know better. If you, Carissa, could ask chess men to do one thing differently, what would it be?"
Oh my gosh. That's such a good question. Okay, if I could ask chessmen to do one thing differently. I guess I had like a first answer and then I was trying to come up with something better, but I couldn't really think of anything. So I'll just go with this intuitive one. I think language is very important um, in how we kind of make sense of the world. And so I would say I just like, I don't want to hear like anything remotely negative about women, like women's chess, women, that sort of thing. I think a lot of male chess players can have, sort of, let's say, like, they'll make, like, some jokes that they think are cheeky or some statement or whatever. Yeah, it can be very harmful and perpetuate things about women in chess. And obviously, chess world is a lot better than it was, say, in, like, the 80s for women. But I would say it actually lags behind pretty heavily from the rest of the world
Yeah.
for some reason or another. I think there are definitely chess men who think that, that they actually are, that they're like not misogynistic or whatever, but you can kind of tell sometimes in the way they talk about like women's chess, for example, and I think, or the way they treat women. I think that part is like really annoying to me, just like these sorts of hypocrites
Uh-huh.
and in a sense who think that they're good people, but they're just like low key, they're just kind of terrible to women. Um, but yeah, I guess my answer to that question is just, yeah, I think language is so important. And obviously, I think in this day and age, like people who are misogynistic don't really tend to do anything in a way that's like openly can be called out on, but just small things like these could really, I mean, add up after a while, and it kind of contributes to like a larger feel of the culture, right?
Yeah.
You can make like a stupid joke, but it's like, and you can be like, oh, it's just one joke. But if you're making multiple jokes, then it's not really just one joke. Um, it's kind of like a mindset that, yeah, is perpetuating, that can influence younger players, that sort of thing. And yeah, I think words are really important and people should be more careful with them in general.
Well said. Um, you've taken Alice Lee out for ice cream at least twice in my observations
Oh my gosh. Let me tell you, Ben, so
St.
many
Louis Chess Club.
times. So many times. Every
A lot
time we're
more.
in St. Louis together, like I'm taking her out to ice cream at least multiple times that tournament.
That's awesome. Alice
Yeah.
Lee, of course, being 16-year-old American phenom, number up to 37 in the live rankings for women. Did she ask you for advice? Do you guys talk chess? Talk academics? What do you guys talk about that you can
Uh,
divulge?
she's a great kid. She's like I guess she's a little bit like a chess little sister to me. Yeah, I kind of just love. I'm an only child, so it's a nice feeling. So honestly, I'll say first off, Alice just she always wants the tea, so I'll take her out to ice
She
cream.
wants to.
Yeah, she's like, "What's the tea? Like, what's the update on your lore?" This sort of thing. And then sometimes we'll go with a wonder too, and I'll be like, oh, I have no lore," and then she's like, "A wonder, like, what's your lore?" So I think she hangs out with me like 90% because she just wants the tea. But yeah, we'll talk about various stuff. School, academics. She's applying to colleges right now. Yeah, she's such a smart kid. So we were talking about that recently, and sometimes I'm gonna say Alice a bit of a yapper. So yeah, so we get to talk about a lot of things. But it's always a good time just to see how the kids are doing.
That's
This last tournament actually, yeah, we would take Andy out too. So
this
just get
is
both the kids'
Grandmaster Andy
side.
Woodward. Yeah.
Yes.
That's
Oops.
and Carissa, the last thing I was curious about is what else you have coming up here in November, December, and looking into next year.
Yeah, so I'm going to be playing the Women's World Team. That's in Linares, Spain. And the team is me, Tatev, Sargisian, Irina, and Zoe Tang. Yeah, I think Alice had to skip out because of school, but for the most part, most of the top players are there. We have a very strong team, I think. It's going to be fast classical, so it's 45 plus 30. And it's kind of part of FIDE's pilot program to try to integrate like this rapid time control and see how it affects like classical ratings. So it will be classically FIDE rated, which is pretty exciting. A little nervous for it, but I think it should be fun. It's a fun event. I always like playing with the team. After that, I have U.S. Masters in North Carolina, just strong open. After that, I might be taking a break for a little bit, and then I'll be playing the World Rapid and Blitz in Qatar.
Wow.
And yeah, after Qatar, I'll be playing in Tata Steel B group. So I actually think that's you guys get like a little early access info for that because I think the
Nice.
field for that is supposed to be released in like 2 to 3 weeks. But yeah, I'm super excited for it. It'll kind of be like my first big super tournament outside of the US. I think it'll be a lot of fun.
Yeah, iconic tournament. That's quite a feather in your cap and fun to look
Yes,
forward to, I'm sure.
definitely.
Um, among the many other events. Well, Carissa, congratulations on your amazing success. It's really inspiring, really fun to watch. People always seem to get tripped up when I ask them this, but I'm going to ask you anyway. Do you have any closing thoughts?
Closing thoughts. Ah, I am feeling tripped up now. Closing thoughts. I mean, maybe I could end with some advice if that's not too
That'd be
presumptuous.
great.
Yeah, I think just maybe advice for chess improvement because it's something I've been thinking a lot about these days and also kind of like managing burnout, that sort of thing. I guess for a while I was thinking that I should also try to be extremely obsessive about chess. Also, sorry, to preface, forgive me if this is like not fully worked out because like I said, I'm still in the process of ironing
Yeah,
out
yeah.
some kinks. But since we talked about kind of the gender gap in chess and this was yeah, I think this was like a reason I offered. Most other reasons upheld by top women are more or less true, I think, but I think this one was something that was like not so talked about, obsessive nature of it, so I brought it up. But I think for me it was like I tried to be so obsessive about it, and then at some point I got a little burnt out. And I think in my experience, it's good to it's good to be able to take a step back. I think. Well, first of all, I think I had periods in my life where I thought it was very important to be well balanced. Then I had this period when I was like, wow, maybe I'll be really good if I just get like super crazy about it. And then I was like, actually, this is a lot of craziness for one person to handle. I think it's just, it's very good to be able to sometimes, like, if you're feeling yourself on the edge of burnout, to be able to take a step back to kind of like know your limits and I guess not be too proud and try to bypass them anyway. And sometimes your mind just needs like a mental reset, right? And it can be different for a lot of people. I think for me, reading is a big one. So it's really good. But I don't know, exercising, going out for a long hike, biking, that sort of thing is also very good. And then generally for improvement, I think just switching, not being afraid to sort of switch things up is kind of big. Because I think for a while I was doing stuff that I could tell was not really working for me, but I did it because inertia sometimes. I think that happens. Um, but then, I started working with Awonder, and actually this was like absolutely fantastic for my chess. Um, and he's just like for so long I've been working by myself, more or less, but just yeah, actually finally finding a coach that um, I had a lot of good chemistry with chess wise was really huge for my improvement. Um, so yeah. Okay, I think those are my closing thoughts on
Okay. No,
chess.
that's good advice
And
because you'll hear that strain of thought where they're like, you have to push through any barrier, it's just a mental block, just power through it. And sometimes the best thing to do can be to like do less, not more in those
yeah, definitely a
situations.
fine line to walk. But I think you have to kind of be able to figure out like, oh, is this thing actually working for me, or is it like, and it's just taking some time to really actually like fully influence my chess in a positive way, or is it just not really working? But when you kind of feel those stirrings of doubts, I think it's good to try something new. Um, yeah,
Okay, great advice to end on. Well, Carissa, congrats again. Thank you again. Really appreciate it, and good luck with all these huge tournaments you have coming up.
great. Thanks so much, Ben. Thanks for having me.